So 4.3, very similar to what we've been doing. We need to know LCDs. We need to multiply stuff. We need to factor, reduce, solve. Well, not even solve. The difference is now that we're throwing in the solving part. So now we have an equation. The equation is that we have an equal sign now. None of the past examples had an equal sign. So all of our past examples, we were left with an expression as our answer. Like this could have been my answer before. Now, since we have an equal sign, our answers will be something like x equals a number. So it'll be easier to know if you're right or wrong, okay? So we're gonna go through this step by step. Step 1, find the LCD of all the fractions. Factor where necessary. Notice that we have an equal sign now, which means now we're gonna have 3 parts to kind of figure out here. I'm gonna factor all of my denominators first to help me figure out my LCD. So x minus 5, that's good, it's factored. X minus 3, that's good, it's factored. X squared minus 8x plus 15. Do the super x. What do I get?
X minus, no.
That's fine. Give yourself another shot. So you may have the numbers right, but maybe your signs are wrong. Here's what it should be. X minus 3, x minus 5. If you're like, maybe you're digging it right. So that's what you should have had. Now let's find my LCD. Let's look for pairs first. Do I see anything in common between any of them? It could be between 2 of them or all 3, up to you, whatever you find.
X minus 5 and x minus 5.
Good. I see this and this. So I have an x minus 5 here. What else?
The x minus 3 and the other x minus 3.
Good. Is everything in my denominators accounted for? Yes. We have my LCD, then my LCD is done. Everything is accounted for. So I'm gonna just kind of scribble this out so we don't get confused. We're looking at the factors part now, okay? Step 2, multiply all the tops by your LCD. Let's label that step 1 and step 2. Multiply tops by LCD. Here's what I mean. I'm gonna put x minus 5, x minus 3. X minus 5, x minus 3. X minus 5, x minus 3. We're going to do this one expression at a time. So there's gonna be 3 parts we're gonna do right now. Let's look at this one here first. Eliminate your denominators by simplifying. What this means is, I have an x minus 5 on the bottom. That cancels with the x minus 5 up top. I am left with an x and an x minus 3. Next section. I have an x minus 3 on the bottom, x minus 3 on top. X minus 5 on the bottom, x minus 5 on top. I am left with this. One more section. X minus 3 on the bottom. That comes with this x minus 3. I am left with x plus 3, x minus 5. Do not forget this negative sign here. So that's going to mean negative. I'm going to put parentheses. Step 3 says to solve. I wrote, let's kind of get rid of this part really quick, only because what I mean by solve is we got to do whatever we can do to get x equals a number. If that means put it all into one side and solve for x, that's what it means. If it means you only have x minus 3 equals 0, move the 3 over, that's all it means. So all I'm asking you to do now is to solve. By solving, it means x equals a number, and then you are done. So that's our end goal. I'm going to start with this section here. If I distribute, I get x squared minus 3x equals. There is nothing to do here. So I'm just going to bring it down. I'm going to bring down the negative for now, and I'm going to leave this. You can do FOIL. You can do box method. Tell me what you get when you do x minus 3 times x minus 5. X plus 3 times x minus 5, sorry.
X squared minus 2x minus 15.
That is correct. Good job to those of you putting it in the chat room. So, keep solving. This negative will go to all 3 pieces. I'm just going to write that step out so I don't get confused. Okay, combine like terms. X squared, negative x squared. Those cancel. Two x, that makes 4x. Negative 15, positive 15. Those two cancel. bring down x squared minus 3x. Bless you. Seeing that I have an x squared left, I'm going to move it all to one side because that means you're probably going to have to do GCF or super x to factor. So I'm going to choose to move the negative 4x over here. Or sorry, move the positive 4x by subtracting it. Did I have to do the 4x? No, you could have moved whichever one you wanted. I'm just getting it all to one side. What can I factor out?
X.
X. We know that this can split up to say x equals 0 and x minus 7 equals 0, therefore x equals 7. So hey, my two solutions for this problem were last step. It says find excluded values to solve for extraneous solutions. Okay? So excluded values. I'm going to go back to my original and I have an x minus 5 cannot equal 0. I have x squared minus 8x plus 15 can't equal 0. We already said that that's factored to x minus 3, x minus 5. And then lastly, we have x minus 3 can't equal 0. This gives me x can't equal 5. X can't equal 3. X can't equal 5. X can't equal 3. So the new highlighted term above was extraneous solutions, and here's what it means. When you are done solving, you have actual solutions and you have excluded values here. Let's say one of my excluded values says x can't equal 7. Okay? You're like, wait, I solved and said x equals 7, but my answer says x can't equal 7. Did I do something wrong? No, that's just called an extraneous solution. That means you did all your math work right, everything is correct, but although x equals 7 you thought was a solution, your excluded values tells you that answer can't work. You cannot use x equals 7. What you would do is say, okay, let me cross it out. My only answer is x equals 0. I'm throwing a hypothetical question in there. That's not this problem. I was just kind of saying, if they match. So if you had this and this, then it's considered extraneous solutions. In this case though, x equals 7 works because this is not a solution, is not an excluded value. My excluded values were only 3 and 5, not 7. That is one example of this type of problems. And I went with like a medium type of question here. So it's actually easier ones you're gonna get right now. Are there any questions for me? I know it was a lot, but is there anything that's like, why did you do this? How did you get this? Anything like that? So the question was, is this the work that will be shown for every problem? Yes, just some problems are going to be some less work. Every problem should show me those 4 steps. Can you find your LCD? Multiply your tops. So you're going to show me this step in red here. You're going to show me your solving work to get x equals numbers, so show me the work. And then you're going to show me your excluded values to see if any are extraneous solutions. All right.
And R and a 2.
Good. So they all had an R in common. And now they have an R and a 2 left over. So I'm going to include those here. The reality is my LCD is 2R squared. However, I'm going to show you leaving it like this may be easier for some people. Okay. Some people can just use this and be completely okay. That's fine with me. If you are struggling at all with my next step, we're going to leave it like this and you'll see why. So let's work through this one together actually, just so I can show you this. Step 2 says to do what?
Multiply all tops by LCD.
Perfect. Multiply all your tops by your LCD. So I'm going to just kind of scribble these out. I'm only going to look at the yellow stuff now. I'm going to multiply this by 2R and R, 2R and R, 2R and R. In this first one on the left, I have an R down here that can cancel with an R up here. I am left with 2, 2, and R. What is 2 times 2 times R?
4R.
4R. Perfect. In the second one, I have an R and an R that cancel with this R and R. I am left with R minus 5 and a 2. What is R minus 5 times 2?
2R minus 10.
Perfect. On the last one, I have a 2 and an R that cancel with this 2 and R. I'm left with 1 and R. What is 1 times R?
R.
Does that seem like an easier problem to solve? So this goes back and I've told you, I did kind of like a medium one with you guys first. This would be considered an easy problem, okay? Because you don't have a variable squared. You only have a variable with the exponent of 1. I was blinking out with an exponent of 1. So let's just solve. I can combine 2R and R to give me 3R. Bring down the minus 10, bring down your 4R. Two-step equations, we've seen this before in IM1. You want the variables on one side, your constants on the other. Subtract to 3R. R equals negative 10. We can't forget excluded values. Excluded values. I'm going to look at these three pieces. I get R can't equal 0, R can't equal 0, and R can't equal 0. In terms of go formative. So before go formative, do any of my solutions match up with my excluded values? No, which means this one here works. So my answer would be for number 1 is -10, for number 2 is 0. Number 1 is saying solve it. Number 2 is saying what are your excluded values? Questions? Does that one seem more doable? Hopefully, yes. All right, any questions? No one said anything? I'm gonna assume we're good. Let's look at the next ones. 3 and 4. I will help you with the LCD. You will do the rest of the problem. We can think of 3p as 3 times p. P is just p. What do they have in common?
P.
P. What is left over?
3.
Therefore, my LCD is 3p. That's it. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Try this problem yourself all the way through. So, multiplies my next step. This cancels with this. I'm only left with 5. This cancels with this. I am left with 3 and p plus 1. That means 3p plus 3. You subtract the 3. Our whole goal is to get p by itself, so you divide by 3. P equals 2/3. Excluded values. Three p can't equal 0. P can't equal 0. Since that does not match, therefore my number 3 is 2/3. My number 4 is 0. Questions? If you made a mistake, hopefully you caught it and see what you did wrong. Okay, I have no question. Let's move on. Next example. Do you want some time to write it down first before I start? No, we're good. Okay. So LCD. Do you like when I break it up as much as possible to find my LCD? See a head nod, see thumbs up. I'm going with it then. This one means 2 times V. This on the right means 2 times V times V. Anybody give me a guess what the middle one's gonna mean?
Two times V times V.
Good. The double 2 is gonna help you the most right now. What do they have in common? Start going with pairs of stuff. I think I lost my chat room. There it is. Okay, I see a 2 and a V. So I have a 2 and a V, 2 and a V, 2 and a V. So the reason why it's 2VV is because I have a 4V squared. V squared means V times V, 4 means 2 times 2. Seeing how everything else is in 2s, breaking your 4 down to 2s will make it easier to understand. Especially with the reducing part later on. Any other pairs of stuff we see? Or anything else I can get rid of? Remember, it can even be just in 2 spots. A V. And that's it. All I know is I'm left with this 2 here in the middle. So my LCD is 22VV, which is reality going to be 4V squared. So multiply everything by that. In my first one, oh wait. All right, in my first one, I have a 2 and a V that will cancel. I'm left with 1, 2, and V. What does that give me?
2V.
2V. My second one, 2, 2VV, cancel 2, 2VV. What am I left with? Just a V minus 4. Last one, 2VV, 2VV. Sound like I'm speaking French over here. What is left? V plus 5 and 2. What does that give me? Thank you, Trisha. 2V plus 10. Spot on today. So we solve this. Combine like terms. Subtract the 2V. Add the 4. Check for excluded values. Questions? All right. I had no questions. I'm going to move forward. 7 and 8. Those are for you. That's your homework assignment, just 7 and 8, that one problem. Okay? Before I let you start it though, I want to do this last problem as my example. 9 and 10. I wouldn't focus on your homework because this one is a little bit like another medium type of question. If you want to pay attention here. So x minus 3 stays x minus 3. X stays as x. What does x squared minus 3x become?
X times x minus 3 times x.
Just that, just x times x minus 3. So good. What do they have in common?
X minus 3 and x minus 3.
What else?
X and x.
That's it. I covered everything in my denominator. I'm good, right? Multiply my tops. This and this cancel with this and this. I am left with 3. X cancels with x. I am left with 2x minus 6 times x minus 3. What does that give me?
Two x squared minus 12x minus 18 plus 18.
Good. Why does x squared minus 3x become x? Oh, so the confusion was on this first one. They both have an x. You're going to take out a GCF of an x. That makes me left with x minus 3. All I did was factor it to make it so that way, look, now because I factored it, now these two things are over here. So it's gonna make it easier as your GCF. Lastly, x minus 3, x minus 3, I'm left with 1 and x, which just means x. Well, that should be an equal sign, sorry. I see an x squared in there, which means I'm gonna have 2 answers. So it's gonna be a little bit more work. Combine like terms. Subtract the x. Let's factor that. If you did the super x, what do I get?
X minus 11 times x minus 2.
I don't think that's what it should be. Did you do the super x?
Out of it upside down.
On top should be 42 and the bottom should be negative 13 and 2x, 2x. So two numbers that multiply to 42 and add to negative 13. Signs are important. If you put in the chat room, signs are important. Remember, they didn't have to multiply to 42. So it is negative 6, negative 7. So 2 and negative 6 become 1 and negative 3. I get x minus 3, 2x minus 7. You split these up. If you put in those two numbers in the chat, in the Go Formative, what do you get? Does it show up green? If you put 7 divided by 2, or 3 and 7 divided by 2, does it show green? No. That means we need to check for extraneous solutions. That means one of those answers isn't going to work. So we have to check. Hey, do one of those match? You see how negative 3 can't be a solution, but yet negative 3 was my solution here? Sorry, positive 3 can't be a solution, but positive 3 was a solution. That means 3 is an extraneous solution. It does not count as your answer. So for number 9, you would put 7 over 2. For number 10, you would put 0 and 3.